We've got the glitch, we've got the fisheye, and we've got the old film effect. It's been a while since I've done a ranking video, so I'm gonna rank every video editing effect. And in this one specifically, it's gonna be audio, video, and transitions. So here we got a tier list going from S to F, and if you don't know how the rankings work, I'll explain it really quick and try not to bore you. As you can see, S is at the top of the tier, which means it's the very best. A right here is just under that, but doesn't reach that ultimate status. B is the very middle, which means it's okay, but it's also not the best. C is right above being the worst, which is F. That is the worst of the worst and the bottom of the tier, as you can see. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get to ranking. Color grading. Color grade plays a very important role, especially if it's a film type of style. And in my personal opinion, I would say this goes up there with the ultimate effects. Next, we got color correction. If you don't know the difference between color grade and color correction, whenever you first get the footage, it looks flat and smoky, and the correction adjusts the shadows and highlights and the saturation as well. That makes it look natural. Color grading, on the other hand, gives it that color and the specific style you want. So color correction, I would say, is equally as important as color grading, and I would put that up there on the S tier as well. Next, we got the classic blur here. Now, for me personally, I use this a lot, especially if you want to display a text or just some assets in front of a video. It helps separate the two. I'll say that much. With that being said, I mean, I don't know if it's necessary. I'll put it right under S tier. Sharpen. Sharpen is important sometimes. I mean, I feel like you only use sharpen if there was a mistake made with the blur, or if you're trying to make the quality a little bit better. So I would just put that in the middle here. The vignettes. Now, something that for me personally, I've learned here with the vignette is it's very good to use, especially if you're having a scene where you're just showing assets or titles and stuff like that. So if you got a white background or whatever color background you have and you're just showing different words pop up, it's a subtle effect that helps you focus more in the center of the screen. I would say I use this a lot, especially during the asset graphics type of sections. So I'll put that in A tier. Chroma key, green screen. So this is what you use to take out the green screen behind you whenever you have the green screen, obviously. So in general, I think chroma keying, you know, if you're using a green screen, unless it's like a movie production, I feel like a lot of times it makes something look pretty cheesy because you can see it in the hair if it's not lit right and all that stuff. So I'll put that in the middle here. Crop and zoom. As an effect here, because if we're talking about like a useful type of situation here, those two are very useful. I think I'm going to put this at an A because it is important, and a lot of times you do want to zoom in on certain things, whether that's like, you know, punch in, punch out, that's considered a zoom, I guess. And then also just cropping things out. If, for instance, if you're talking about a movie, there's a boom mic in the corner, say this, and then you just want to cut it out, you know, good way to crop. Lens flare. This has been used a lot by editors. In my personal opinion, this is a very subtle effect, something that's added in post, and this is what we're talking about. We're talking about editing, so this is not an in-camera lens flare type of situation. If you do it right, it will make the shot look really nice, but I don't think it's 100%. I'll put it at A because, yeah, if you do it right, it can really make a shot a lot more beautiful. The glitch transition. There was a phase, and some people still use it all the time, but I feel like there was a phase where everyone wanted to use the glitch. Did I say glitch transition? Glitch effect. And yes, I was a part of that crowd. But now after a little bit, I realized that the way I was using it was not well done. A lot of times you want to use effects or transitions when it has a purpose. During that whole era of the glitch effect, people would just use it out at the get-go and just use it for whatever they want with no purpose behind it, me included. And because of that, it's kind of brought me away from that effect, unless there's a specific purpose, and that should be with every effect if I'm being honest. So I would say sometimes it can work nicely, and I'll put that in the middle here. The light leak. Wait, what did I? Lens flare, light leak. Did I just mix up those two?
Go into that.
All right, so yeah, essentially a light leak is whenever the light is coming in from the edges or kind of just over instead of from a direct lighting point. I would put this in the same situation as the glitch. In a sense, a lot of times people like to use it with no purpose whatsoever and just out of nowhere use a light leak. But I will say there's a lot more opportunity to use it that will benefit your video than a glitch would. So I'm going to put this at A here. Old film effect. Now, there are default old film effects on editing softwares that look completely garbage. I mean, there's a film noise effect, which can be used to give your shot more definition or personality. But the old film effect, I believe what it's talking about is the type of effect that's kind of like shaky and it's got the line going across. And a lot of times it's not that great to use unless it's a specific, very specific flashback or something to do with that as a video effect. I would put that as C. Time remapping, or better known as speed ramping. I almost want to put this in S category because speed ramping. Okay, I'll put it in A because this isn't something that you have to use all the time, but it really does benefit a lot in a lot of videos, and that could also depend on the type of video you're working on. But overall, as an effect, I think it's really nice. Add some motion blur. You're doing good. Split screen. I've come to use this effect quite a bit, and I didn't really recognize it for a little bit. In my opinion, I think it's really nice, but I also do think it's not something I use all the time, but I do really like the effect, but you have to use it right. So with that being said, I'll put that at B tier. Picture in picture. Now this is the type of effect where you're showing a screen and you're in the corner, little bubble, often used in tutorials and all that kind of stuff. Again, I would say this is important depending on the type of content you're making. So with that being said, I'll put that halfway because not everybody really needs the picture in picture effect. Text animation. I'll say text animation is important, really important, and you can use it a lot, but you can get away with just cutting in the text and cutting out if you do it in the right way with sound effects and stuff like that. I would probably put this in A and not S. Now keyframing, on the other hand, that's going in S tier. I think that's enough said. If you don't know what keyframing is, that's initially the process of any type of movement, whether that's a zoom in, zoom out, swipe left, swipe right, animation going in, any of that is all keyframing. Keyframing is a crucial part of editing. Next here, pan and zoom. Ken Burns effect. Now the Ken Burns effect, let's look at the definition. This can be used in a lot of cheesy ways. The best way to use it is just a simple zoom in, subtle zoom in or zoom out. If we're talking in that sense, it is very important, especially adding movement and to do with different shots and stuff like that. So I would almost put this at the same level as keyframing because essentially that's what it is, only with like the movement of the camera in post. I will put this at S tier when it comes to that sense. Stabilization. I think stabilization is really important, but most of the time stuff should be stabilized decently when it's shot, and you shouldn't have to worry too much about doing it in post unless it's kind of there's a little issue and you want to fix it up. So I'll put that at A tier, not S. Tracking. This has drastically become more and more popular as people learn to edit, and it's something that I use a good bit as well. But is it S tier? I'll put that at S tier. Tracking is very, very good. Very good effect. Parallax effect. What in the world? What is this? Oh, okay. Yeah, I've actually done this before. I didn't realize. Whatever. I feel like it's a very cool effect, but you don't need to use it all the time, or I don't use it all the time at least. So I'm gonna put that at B tier. Warp stabilizer. I'll just put that at the same level as stabilization. Cut. Direct transition. I will say this. All editing is knowing when to cut at the right time. If you don't know how to do that, there's a bit of an issue there. So I'm gonna put this at S tier. Fade in and fade out. I use this a lot, and this can be very well, put together in a film, but I don't think it's S tier status, so I'm gonna put that at A. Crossfade. A lot of the times it can be very cheesy, so I'm gonna put that at B tier, but you can use it. A wipe. Now, a slide and a wipe are different. A wipe is just wherever initially the crop kind of goes across. A slide is whenever the whole thing moves. And I will say a slide is definitely better. A wipe can get kind of cheesy sometimes. So I'm gonna put that at C. Dissolve. A dissolve is essentially the same thing as a crossfade. So I'm gonna put this in B tier. A zoom transition. Again, a lot of the times, actually, well, okay. Let me just look at some examples of a zoom transition. Let me refresh my mind. Yeah, this is what comes to mind whenever I think of zoom transition.
In this tutorial, I'll show you how to create a smooth zoom transition in Premiere Pro, so let's get to it. Here you can...
That's like CapCut type of stuff going on. For overall editing, I would say it's not the greatest, in my opinion at least. I don't know if I should have B or... I'll put it at C. I'll put it at C. All right, we haven't had an F yet. I'm actually kind of shocked. A spin transition. Now, in my opinion, this can actually be used more and look a little bit cooler if you're doing a high-paced type of video. For instance, like one time I was working on a video and it was about a car. When it shows the car, shows the wheel, and the camera was spinning a little bit, and so the transition I did was I added a spin transition into another shot so that while the camera was spinning, it kind of just went with that motion and then transitioned into something else. So there are different situations. I mean, this almost falls into the same category as zoom. I'll put it at B. I'll put it at B. I feel like if I'm putting zoom at C, then I'll put this at C as well. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Glitch transition. Same thing, glitch effect, but it's a transition now. So, same opinion. B. Light flash transition. As it states, it flashes and transitions into something else. Now, this can actually be used in a good bit, whether it's like a flashback, flash forward, or you're getting punched in the face from a camera angle. So if I like go like this, right? It's like you're getting knocked out. So it can be used, but I'll still put it at B. I'll put it at B here. Now a slide transition. This is used a lot, especially in, well, no, actually I've seen it in movies and I've seen it in shows and stuff too, but it's used a lot on YouTube especially. And like I said before, it's not a wipe, it's a slide, so the whole thing moves into the next scene. And with some motion blur over it, it looks decent. It's pretty good to transition between sections in a video. I'm gonna put this at A tier. So this is what we're looking at. Reverb. Reverb is that kind of effect that you get at the end of something where it kind of doesn't really echo, but it extends out. So this is what a reverb sounds like. And I actually use this a lot because you can cut any song you want at a natural point if you use some reverb at the end of it, and it gives it that ending piece without it being too dramatic or too abrupt. It doesn't make it too abrupt whenever you want to end a song, whenever you want to end a song. So yeah, it's pretty good. So I'm gonna put that at A. The echo. Now, to my understanding, the echo is pretty much an effect where whenever you say something, it just repeats what you said multiple times as it lowers in volume. And it kind of, I guess, has that reverb effect to it, but it's not the same. With how much I use it, I'm gonna put it at C.
Pitch. shifting,
Pretty much making your voice sound
pretty high,
or making it sound pretty low.
I'll say sometimes this comes in handy, but it's not a necessary effect whatsoever. So I'm gonna put this at B because it is pretty useful. Equalization, EQ. This is actually a very important effect when it comes to audio. I use it in my normal corrections to audio. So I'm actually gonna put this at, S. I'm actually gonna put this at S, yeah. Noise reduction. I'm going to assume this is talking about the little camera noise you get. The little, I'm sure if I zoom in enough, you're going to see it. That essentially helps kind of smooth it out and does what it says. Noise reduction. But there are some cons with this effect. A lot of times whenever it tries to smooth out the noise, it makes your face and the overall shot look a little bit wonky. With that being said, I'm going to say this is something that you want to use sometimes, and when you do use it, you want to make it very subtle so it's not too dramatic. So I'm going to put that at B. Time stretching, audio. That's pretty much just slowing down the audio enough to make it longer, last longer. And let's put it at a solid B. Let's put it at B. Sound effects, ambient, Foley. You hear me talk about this often. Sound effects are very important to a project, especially ambient and different movements and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm gonna put this at S. That deserves to be an S tier because sound effects, if you use zero sound effects, never, ever, then up your game. 3D effects. A lot of times in regular editing, again, there's like film and high-end production work that uses 3D stuff, but I would say I'm gonna put this at A because you have to be able to do it right. You gotta make it look right, otherwise it'll just look pretty bad. Compositing. So pretty much this is wherever you combined things together to make a single scene. This is actually used a lot with assets and stuff like that, and because compositing is used so much, I would say it's at S tier. Particle effects, snow, rain, sparks. Again, you have to use this right, and you have to do it right. I'll put this at A tier, just because it's not too often that you have to, but like it is a subtle thing, and something that's added over during, times that it's needed. Explosions. Classic YouTube effect. This is the type of effect that you only need it sometimes. So I'm gonna put it at B. Hologram effect. Yeah, this is in the same category as explosions, to be honest. If you do it right, it does look pretty cool. If you do it right. Morphing into, again, I mean, a lot of this, as an effect standpoint, it does look, like it looks cool, but you don't use it all the time. Even though the overall effect is, if you do it right, it's pretty cool. Freeze frame. I will say that this is very important most of the time. You use it a lot, or at least I do. I'll put it at A. Clone effect. This happens a lot, pretty much whenever you stand on a, well, it's gonna be a little bit difficult because of the shadow, but you stand on one side and then you get that shot, and then you stand on another side like this. Again, my shadow's right here because of the lighting, so it might be a little bit weird, but initially you chop it in half, get that shot, add the two shots together. So that's the clone effect, and I've seen a lot. I mean, as an overall effect, I mean, I think it's a pretty cool effect I've been saying if you use it right a lot. So I'm going to say if you use it in a good way. I'm going to put that at A. Lower thirds, this one, it kind of depends on the type of stuff you're working on. If it's like corporate, or if it's the type of video where there's somebody new, you want to introduce them. I would say they are needed pretty often. I would put this at A. Animated titles. Isn't that the same as text animation? I'm going to put that at the same tier as text animation. Put that at A. Kinetic typography.
Amazing kinetic typography techniques.
Okay. You can use this in a good situation, but I'm going to just put that in the middle here. Callouts, highlight points. Callouts is initially when you add a little dot or whatever with a little box, and then it tells you what it is. The usefulness can vary depending in the type of stuff you're working on. And with that, I mean, it's B. It's B tier. Subtitles and captions. This has drastically changed as far as it being useful because something called Reels and Shorts and vertical video came out. So with that being said, if we're talking about overall editing, shorts, reels, and just in general, I'll put that in A status. Highlight and shadow adjustment. Isn't that the same as color correction? I mean, all right, I'll put that at A tier then. I mean, I feel like that's what it's talking about, right? Light rays. Now this is a certain glow effect that you could use on different things. And again, I'll put that in the middle here. Shadow casting. I'm going to assume this is adding shadow to assets or different things. And it's very important. I use it all the time. It helps separate it from the overall image if you're adding like a text or stuff like that. So with that being said, I think I'm gonna put that in S tier actually. Warp. I don't know how many times you really need to use the warp effect unless you're trying to be funny or you got a specific type of thing you're going for. With that being said, I mean, B. I'm gonna put that at B. Ripple, if this is what I think it is.
Way through. And then just after doing some fine.
So, I mean, this is kind of what I think when it says ripple effect. I mean, unless you want to use it in a unique way like this, it's not really that important. I'm contemplating F or C here. The first F. Is it going to be? I'm going to just do it. First F, the ripple effect. Congratulations on not being that great. All right, bulge and pinch. Again, I mean, it's not really, I don't know any good use. Honestly, I might put this at F2. I mean, no. I'm gonna put it as C. I'm gonna put it as C. The fisheye effect. The fisheye partially uses the bulge effect and gives it that warped type of look, which you can actually make look pretty sick. And with that being said, I think I'm going to put it as an effect. I'm going to put it at B. Actually, yeah, I'm going to put it there. But that's like higher end B. Displacement map. What? So it gives it that line look. Okay, I mean that's cool, I guess. I'll put it at the same thing as warp because that's kind of what it is. Boom. All right, there it is. My ranking of every effect. Now I'm sure there are more, but there's a lot listed here. So if you'd like to watch another video of mine, you can click right here. And I'll see you at the next. I usually say at the next edit, but I mean, I guess this wasn't really, I edited the tier list. I'll see you at the next edit.